Hey guys, it's Jay here with another Ordeal video. So today I wanted to go over and kind of just rank the top 5 characters or top 5 Kimyos I like in the Ordeal story, my favorites. This video idea was recommended to me some time ago at the start of my channel, and I'm really just now getting the chance to talk about it. So if you enjoyed the video, leave a like and share it with others. Without further ado, onto the vid. So in 5th place, we have Nico Hart. Now, Nico Hart was the last character who was added to the list, honestly. I think everybody else, I just like everybody else more than her. I feel like you'll get into maybe why, and like when you see some of the other characters, you'll understand that. Now she is my favorite code member. She's my favorite among them. I like them all. Like I'd say Hanjiro would probably be like next, but I feel like I just like her a lot more. I don't think I have any particular reason why I like her more than any of the other code heads, but I just feel like I do. I kind of like her look, her design. She's very cool looking. You know, she has the the blue skin and the red eyes. You know, white hair, all resembling that she is a Heart Clan member, but more specifically, you know, it just shows the physical resemblance in regards to how she relates to the first bear, or not the first bear, but the first the creator of the Heart Clan, Malhazar, which I think is very cool. Like I said, I think she's kind of interesting. I like that we got to see like even her just being in the flashback with Sabito training. If I'm assuming right, she is the other kid that we see next to Sabito. Now I do kind of like that. It shows that she should also have some like semblance of swordsmanship, and then we really don't get to see like her flashback or anything else like that. But we do know that she was close to Sabito. She had feelings for him before he fell in love with Mei, you know, and they had their connection. I kind of want a flashback or like a little bit of their connection. I don't think she'll get to see, or I don't think we'll get to see any of her kind of communicating with Shay and kind of, you know, talking to him. But I think that would be cool for her because she is a Heart Clan member. She was very excited to see Shay when he first appeared. That's why she stares at him and they have that like little intense scene. And we also know that, you know, she got the scar during Veal's attack on the Heart Clan as revenge for Sabito destroying the army, right? Now we know that during that attack, she was able to save some of the Heart Clan members, which is pretty good. So there is an unknown amount of, you know, Heart Clan members out there scattered throughout the world. And it would be very interesting to see Shay interact with them. It'd be pretty cool, or just one of them. It'd be pretty cool to see her interact with one of them, or, you know, we see her interact with one of them that she still keeps in touch with. That'd be very cool to see. It would be kind of nice if we also see her introduce Shay to any one of them. You know, obviously Shay isn't going to trust Code anymore, but I think her being a Heart Clan member, her having such like a desire to be close to Shay because of, you know, Sabito, it'd be very interesting to see, you know, him and her interacting and like her choosing to kind of go behind their backs and just talk to Shay. Now, in regards to her talent, I do like Taklio. I feel like it's a very simple talent, but I think it's cool because it takes the concept of teleportation, but it kind of makes it very specific. Like she can teleport things because she has these beads, and then these beads can either grow or, you know, shorten in terms of like how many is actually needed for the thing that's being teleported, which I think is cool. Now, when it comes to her talent, I'm not really sure how. Like I feel like she can only teleport like stationary things. Like we see her teleport her and the first head. We see her do that a lot. I know he teleports the entirety of, you know, the code heads when they fight Goro, and then we see her again. She warps everybody to their set positions when Aldrich is about to do the seal. So we've only seen her really teleport things that are like stationary. I don't think she has any. I mean, she should be powerful, as you know, the seal requires, you know, 7 strong Kimyos, but I'm not sure if she can kind of teleport anything that's like directly moving or coming at her, or if she has like the reaction speeds necessary to kind of like do some of those like crazier, you know, movement, you know, or mid movement teleportation type of things. But if she does, I think it would be cool, and I feel like if we get to see her in the next season, that would be cool to see. But yes, she is in 5th place. She is last, but she is still a very cool and interesting character nonetheless. Now in 4th place, we have Tevin Charles. Tevin has probably been my favorite Wolfpack member, so I feel like it's good to have him on this list. He's been my favorite probably since season 1. His character is cool, his design is cool, and I think his talent is obviously one of the coolest among the Wolfpack members. With only like really Anton's probably being like on a similar tier of like coolness. But yes, he's my favorite among them. And then now I feel like his character is probably one of the better written ones. I mean, we haven't really gotten to see any of the other characters yet, like really kind of establish themselves like in the story, like Azam, Lewis, Anton a little bit, but I feel like we don't really get to see that many of them highlight how their characters actually are. Now Tevin, we know Tevin seems like a very honorable and respectful character. We know even in the midst of like war and battle, he didn't want to defeat or have to take the life of his enemy, which I think is very cool. And then we get a little flashback of him with Leo, so I think that also demonstrates his closeness to Leo, but also his like him having one of the closer moralities that align with Leo. I also think it's interesting how Tevin should be the one who kind of narrates like all those little like narration bubbles that we see in regards to kind of Shay's path and that we see in the first and second seasons. I think that's very interesting because I think it's interesting because Tevin is like out of all the Wolfpack members should be the closest to Shay. He's have the closest brotherly bond to him. So I feel like it's very good that he has that like narration type of sort of that narration just type of feel about him. And we know these first three seasons are flashbacks, and so he's kind of just talking and narrating how Shay's path goes. I think that's just very interesting. We also know he becomes a god tier, so he probably like kind of carries the morality of Leo all the way up there. We know a lot of the god tier also align themselves with Leo's sense of morality too. It makes a lot of sense that Kevin is one of the people who ascends to that level of strength, but also should be aligning himself greatly with that level, that sense of morality and justice that Leo tries to show and kind of exudes on himself, right? We also know that he tried to get Rakesh like on the same path of like humbleness and like making sure that he doesn't step over people. And even Tevin, like I said, Tevin has that sense of morality where he doesn't really want to take out his opponent if he doesn't really have to, if he just submits, kind of like a Goku situation where Goku won't like immediately at the end of the fight choose to take out his opponent, potentially giving them a chance to just turn their character around and like become a better person. I think it's very cool for him. Now in regards to his talent, he does have my favorite talent out of all the Wolfpack members. I like the hide typing. I think Tevin has a very like I feel like he probably has one of the coolest hide types that we'll probably ever see in the actual story. And like Rokash says, it's a standalone chimeric hide type, which means that he can make multiple hides without the need for any other source, right? But he also says he's predictable, which means his fighting style is very straightforward. He's a very close quarters fighter. He doesn't have any type of like differentiating. I think Andrea also makes that distinction that he fights way too predictably. Maybe we'll get to see him kind of switch it up in the next season or in future seasons. I do like Rhino hide. I like the designs of all of his hides. Kind of hoping Hammer hide kind of gets a like a fuller design or like a slight redesign or something like that. Like the partial coverage is cool, but once he masters it, I kind of hope it has like a more full cowl sense like his other hides do, right? I'm also hoping we get to see overdrive mode. It would be very cool to see him have overdrive mastered in the next season. It was able to sever the leg of Ryu Godskin, and then it also allowed him to move in his black hole field. So I'm kind of hoping that gets a lot more shine in the next seasons. Now I'm not really sure of any other upgrades or like he'll get to Rhino hide, or if any of his other hides will get upgraded. It would actually be really cool to see some of his other hides be upgraded, like Lion hide. Maybe Lion hide will be in a consistent state of overdrive or something like that. But it'd also be very cool to see Blacksmith Forge. I would love to see some more like grander hides that he can pull off. I think it'd be very interesting to really dive into that. I know there might be some people out there who wants him to have like a dragon hide, so if he can do anything like that, that would be cool. Or maybe he can just, instead of just like animal related hides, which I think is kind of like the core of what he can do, maybe he just has some other like either ability, like specific ability oriented hides or things like that. But I do like his talent. I think like it is very versatile in how he uses it. So when he becomes a god tier and when he reaches those heights, he will have ascended correctly with his talent. So I'm very excited to see him. And yeah. Now in third place we have Rokash Rampersad. Now honestly, I didn't really like Rokash that much. Even after like I had read the entire second season, that whole season was finished, and I didn't really like Rokash like after that. Like there was nothing about him that really screamed out to me. And then I got really interested in his talent. I think his talent is very cool, and I kind of maybe kind of just could look at him and kind of go back and see all the parts where he showcases it some more. And then I watched a video by Wolfnara. He made I think what's it called, Rokash is Misunderstood or something like that, and that kind of changed my perspective on him. So I reread the fight, and I did enjoy it a little bit more because of that. So shouts out to Wolfnara for making that video, and it kind of it helped me helped me keep Rokash like in my sights. Now, I do agree that I think he's a little bit misunderstood, a little bit underrated. Maybe not underrated, but I do think he's a little misunderstood. And I kind of want to make a video fully dissecting his fight with the wolf cubs. But I will get into that in another time. So in regards to his character, he's a very kind of like he has a clear mindset of like if you are this strong and I am this strong, and there's a defined like line between strength, right? So if I'm achieving this set of strength and you have this much strength, then you're not going to surpass me. And that goes for people who are stronger than him. I'm not sure what the quote is, and I kind of hope I have it up on the video, but I feel like this quote really represents how Rokash's character is perceived, for the entirety of the story. But he also kind of ends up being used for vengeance. I mean, he takes out Leo. Well, not directly. Technically, he doesn't take out Leo, but partially his fault that Leo is dead in the first place, and that carries all the way until the end of the first season, which is very sad and very upsetting because Rokash did not have to become that kind of character. Honestly, he didn't have to become the character that he ended up being at the end of the first season. Imagine a different version of Rokash who maybe still has like a similar personality, but was able to be around when Shay and the other wolf cubs were being brought up in the gym. Imagine that, right? Now, in regards to his talent, like I said, very strong. I think it has a lot more potential than he actually showcased, but he should have been holding back in his fight against the wolf cubs and specifically Andrea and Shay near the end of that. But it is very strong. I mean, he has a state talent, which is probably one of the stronger talent types, and then he also has a corrosion type, which is probably the most innately dangerous, and he uses it like very well. I mean, he throws out slashes consistently, and the slashes do great damage. I mean, if you watch my last video where I talk about where I use his talent type or his talent as an example for the corrosive talent type, I mean, he should be speeding up, the corrosive or the corrosion between, atoms, and that's allowing things to be severed like almost immediately, right? So every time he throws out a slash, everything in his path just disappears. It's just very strong. Like when he shoots out the beam, everybody is forced to dodge or they would have been wiped out, right? And we see like how many walls it breaks through. I'm not It's like 3 or 4 or something like that. But then he has the state aspect of it, and then that boosts his strength. It makes him that much stronger. It makes him hit that much harder. It makes him move that much faster, right? We see him outspeeding Azam where he blitzes him, and then when it comes to his strength, I mean, he's able to like knock Muramasa out of Andre's hands. He's able to consistently break the ground around him when he strikes, and then looking at the corrosive nature of his talent when his state is active, I mean, like I said, he shoots the beam, but then he has all those other protection lines that can just innately protect him, and then he shoots an even bigger beam, and then he can surround himself in a tomb or a pyramid full of protection eyes. Now imagine just a different person fighting against that. Like, what are they gonna do? That is an entire structure designed to just shoot at you. You know what I mean? And he should be more or less like stronger than what he showcased or what the actual story kind of alludes to. But yeah. Now in second place we have Ian Anthony Hoff. Like I said in my other Otaku Fix the discussion video, Ian was not a character I initially. It's not that I didn't like him, he just wasn't really on my radar. And then he became a cameo and he instantly shot to second place. Like, and this was before I even liked Rokash. So once he became a cameo, he instantly shot to second place. Like I had nobody else at that point. I really didn't have anybody else on this list aside from the number one spot. I really enjoyed the fact that he became a cameo. I feel like I discussed in my video, I feel like he's the perfect character to showcase becoming a cameo as a human, like a fully grown adult, who's lived a good lifetime, and now he's able to essentially live a second lifetime, because now he's a cameo, he's stepping into that world, he has the power to kind of back up, any threat that could oppose him, right? So I think he's a very good character, and Migdal L says he's a man of valor, and I feel like that perfectly represents his character. I mean, I think there's like 3 perfect examples for this. Actually, there's 4. There's 4 perfect examples that really showcase the character and how it aligns with Valor. The first one is when he's fighting those 2 Titans or Titan generals, just Titans on the rooftop, and like everybody's dying around him, and he's able to just brunt force his way through and get the victory. But in the end, he's still humble and sad of that yes, they won, but they just suffered so much loss, right? They still suffered all the deaths of all those soldiers who were fresh out of the academy, right? Now, the next example is when everybody's like shocked and like screaming, maybe not screaming, but when they're surprised at the giant, like grafted Kimyo type of thing that's running at them. And I'm not really sure what he does because I don't have it pulled up. I mean, I know what he does, but I'm not sure what he says, if he says anything, because I don't have it pulled up. But he just punches a hole. Like he just runs straight through him. He runs straight through him. I don't really have anything else to say. He runs straight through him. Like, and then he just kind of they just keep moving. Like he just keeps going on. Like that's so cool, right? And then the next one would be, when he's fighting all the people during the Battle of Greenland, and then he loses his legs, right? He loses his legs, but instead of immediately just passing out, he still takes out the enemy that cuts off his legs. How much like grit do you have to instead of just kind of immediately like accepting like the fate that's being put on you, to still, kind of get your get back and like make sure the person who did this to you can't do it to anybody else or can't hurt or harm anybody else, right? And the last example obviously is going to be when he becomes a Kimyo, when he uses the life serum and, gets Migdal El, choosing to take his own life instead of having everybody else fight over this object. I feel like that's great. Like that's the final thing that truly represents, why he's a man of valor, and that's why Migdal El like calls him that specifically, right? And then in regards to Migdal El, I honestly I just can't wait to see more. Can't wait to see more. We see it, throw the lance and scare off the two Gaki before they really get to like do anything else. So that truly showcases what Inspector Ian and what Migdal El can do when they ascend and finally, and when Ian specifically fully masters his talent, right? So I can't wait to see more. I already know we're not going to see that much of him next season because of what I discussed in that Otaku Fix review video, but I would still love to see, like, I just want to see something. I feel like it would be a true waste for us to see this character, kind of show off this, like, flex his power, have this, like, great reveal to become a Kimyo, and then have it just kind of squandered and, have him, like, really set to the sidelines most of the season. Now, the season obviously really isn't about him, but I still feel like he earned his spot to get some sort of shine in the next season, if that makes sense. And I'm hoping everybody else agrees, right? And in first place, I have Sabito Heart. Now, when I tell you Sabito has been my favorite character all time, and this spot will never change since the first season, I mean that. I truly mean that. When Sabito first shows up, he's just like a chi spirit thing that helps Shay wake up, right? I think he says it's time to wake up, son, if I'm not mistaken. That was the beginning. That was where I was like, okay, Shay, we don't really know anything about Shay's heritage, but this alludes to something, and this character is going to be very interesting to see later on, right? And then we get an actual flashback, even if he's in it for a very brief moment, we get to see him face and kind of fend off against Vayal, right? And then it's also admitted that he's the only person that has scarred him. I think Leo tells Rokash that before we actually see the person he's talking about, right? And then, Sabito doesn't even have to use his talent, which is obviously, for story purposes so that we can see it later on. But even in that moment, him fighting Vayal, not using his talent, is still very impressive. And I think it's very cool. It's a good showcasing for him. So ever since that moment, he's been my favorite character. I also just enjoy the fact that Sabito has one of the most consistent presences in the story for a character who is not alive, right? What I mean by that is that Sabito, he's either like brought up or mentioned or like alluded to like being talked about seemingly a lot, right? So after, what I just mentioned, that he shows up and we get that flashback, we go on to, the second season, and then we see Shay talk to Leo's son, and then when Shay walks away, Leo's son like sees, Sabito and Mei right there, right? And then after that, Shay goes on to be revealed the truth about his parents, right? And then we get an entire flashback and like little mini story about, their life. And those flashbacks are probably some of my favorite episodes because it showcases Sabito. Obviously, I did an entire video just kind of covering their origins, which is probably one of my favorite videos I've made. But I do have that entire video and just kind of recapping their origins, right? And in those origins, we get to see, we get to see Mei, we get to see Sabito, we get to see how they met. We get to see Sabito showcase his talent, Hisame, a whole bunch, and then we get to just know that he was a prodigy. Essentially his strength is only like second to that of the Adamos brothers, and I have been told that the ranks ranks 4 through 10 aren't solely based on strength, but the way the story alludes it, it makes it seem like Sabito is fourth because he is comparable to them in terms of strength. Like that's what it alludes to. And this is while Leo is alive. So it would go Leo, Kevin, and then Vatic, and then it would go Sabito, right? That's just how I interpret it. I could be very wrong about that, right? But after that, oh, you know what? I forgot to even mention that when Shay is fighting Rokash, even Rokash sees like Sabito in Shay because he met him, you know, in the flashback that we see later on. But he sees that version of Sabito in Shay when he's fighting him with the sword, right? You know, I think Bjorn mentions that Sabito, or like all the gods here know that Sabito is Shay's father, right? And then we get to see or then we get to, you know, find out more that in regards to Kaguya and Sabito's relation, like Kaguya is Sabito's older brother, right? But Sabito is a prodigy, and we essentially know nothing about Kaguya's past, right? So it could be alluded that Sabito was, you know, either the more favored among them, or because he was a prodigy who was just more liked, or anything along those lines, right? And then we see Sabito and May are the statues that are, you know, securing the life boxes, you know, which I just think is visually just a very good choice. I feel like anything else like wouldn't have been as cool or impactful, right? But yeah, and then, you know, that also means that, you know, Kaguya is Shay's uncle, which may lead to some interesting interactions in the future. Not super important. But I feel like all of that really shows how Sabito's presence in the story is probably one of the more important ones. You know, he's compared to Shay. He exudes this presence, you know, even when he's not alive, even when his actual character has already been passed on and faded away. And I just think that's very cool. Maybe we won't get anything like that from him for the rest of the series. If that is the case, that's perfectly fine. I feel like, you know, his character and what he means and what he kind of stands for showcases itself in the, you know, near the end of the first season and in the second season perfectly. I don't think we really need anything else in regards to that. But if we get something, of course, I'll be happy. Now, in regards to Hisame, Hisame should be the strongest talent on this list. And I only say should because you could potentially make an argument for Migdal, but Migdal hasn't shown us anything yet. So I don't want to, you know, obviously I don't want to count him out, but also I don't want to just give it all to him because Hisame has shown us some great stuff, right? With Hisame, Sabito was able to fend off an entire army for 3 days straight. He was able to fight a frontline Kimyo and best him. Hisame can be unbreaking and unmelting, which means you can't destroy. Oh, you need a very immense amount of power, or you know, something to even break the ice that Hisame crafts. Right? We know that when Sabito was a kid, initially it couldn't be broken, or yeah, it couldn't be broken. Even like the little mini, what I assume is the mini version of Eden that he made to protect May, the Hamon couldn't. She couldn't destroy it with her talent, right? And then we see all of the ice that he uses to defeat Tachi Baron, and then we later go on to see him using, you know, snow form again against you know, the army, the Thanatos army, right? Now we get to see a lot. We even get to see Hisame as a living talent show off a little bit, right? He doesn't even do anything else that we see visually, but we know for a fact it can be alluded to that he helped out, you know, greatly in that fight. Hisame was able to quickly grab the empty scabbard, form a sword of ice, and then slash the Kimyo in half, right? And then he later on freezes like, I don't know, what seems like 10 to 15 other Kimyos, and then he just cuts that whole like ice structure in half, right? So they're all dealt with, right? Which is amazing. I can't wait to see more from Hisame because I know we're gonna get more through Yukiko. So that's gonna be great to see. I'm pretty sure that's all I have to say about Sabito. Like I said, he's my favorite. He's the number one on the list, and I don't think his spot will be being taken at any time soon or anytime later on. Everybody else maybe can change. I don't really see Tevin might jump up from based on what we know that he'll become a god tier. So Tevin could become, you know, one of the second or third. Since we were probably not going to get anything else from Rokash, he might fall off, and so might Nico. But you know, I think Sabito, Tevin, and then Ian are probably going to stay consistent on this list unless anything else happens. But that is the video. I hope you guys kind of agree with some of the people on my list and potentially some of my reasonings. I do think there are other characters that you can, you know, definitively like more. You know, some of the other code members, some of the other, you know, Wolfpack members. But these are the characters I just kind of like and kind of lean closer towards, you know, in regards to certain groups and then just overall. But if you enjoy the video, leave a like, share it with others, and I will see y'all in the next one.